The next item on the agenda is 3F, the personnel report. For that, turn to Dr. Wood. Yeah, does anybody have any questions on the personnel report? It's included in the materials. Okay. Item 4 on the agenda is reserved for the public. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move forward. Item 5 is minutes of the previous meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the meetings on 12/8/15 and 12/15/15 as submitted.
Second.
Are there any questions? Since there are only 2 of us here who were actually mentioned in the minutes of the meeting, they look fine to me, so I think we're okay with those. Are there any issues there? All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, state say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. The next is the finance report. Ms. Cameron.
Thank you. On the financial statements, I do want to point out a few items on there, just because we have some new members that have joined us this time. So on the first page on the cash reconciliation, down in the bottom half where it says actual cash balance, those are our individual fund balances. So if you will look at about the middle ways down, it says assigned I-funds and maintenance funds. The balance there currently at the close of December is $320,000. If you'll look at the bottom, that's where I've been tracking those assigned funds. And the prior month we had $429,000 balance. Our bus invoice came in where we had funds reserved for that, so I moved it out into beginning balance. We'll look at that on another page. And so that leaves the balance in there assigned for I-funds or some of our innovation initiatives allocated at $150,000 a year for the next 2 years. So 15-16 we have some funds set aside as 16-17. And if you will just look at the overall cash balance, what you have is a comparison from current year to prior year. So you'll see that we currently have a $10 million cash balance, and prior year we had $8 million. And so it's important to know where those balances are and that it's not just $1.5 million increase in general fund. So like if you will look at the construction fund, we have a balance sitting there of $484,000, which is significantly contributed to that increase. Those are residual funds at the Tolliver project. We had the deduct change orders on the windows at the Tolliver project, so those are laying there and waiting for our next significant construction project, and we'll apply those funds. So you can look down through there and compare each fund. The district activity funds has $188,000 current balance, and those are funds that we did not carry in this checking account prior to July 1 of the current fiscal year. I do want to point out the food service cash balance. We are making some headway on our increase of fund balance there. We need to carry 3 months worth of operating costs. So that needs to be nearer to $300,000 before making headway in getting there. And it's important to note that if food service does not make its way, it is a proprietary fund, then the board has to kick in from general fund. So we do want that program to be able to stand alone and hold its own. On the next page are the receipts for the month of December. On the very first line, on beginning balance, you'll see where it says received this month, $109,784. Those were the funds transferred from reserved into the regular budget to expend for the bus. So that's why it has that amount in beginning balance. 2 items on the percentage column that I want to point out. In general property tax, you will see that we've received 91% of our funds at the close of December. Currently, we're standing somewhere closer to 98%. But that figure is important because we receive those funds in a concentrated period of time to prepare us for expenditures for the rest of the year, to last us through the end of June. If you will look at SEEK, that's our other big funding revenue source for general fund, and we've received 50% of those dollars. So we're 6 months in, we've received 50% of our SEEK dollars, which is allocated equally, one portion each month for 12 months, and then the property taxes come in a lump sum. Okay. And then one other percentage that I just want to call your attention to, and it's on the expenditure side. And if you will look at the totals, it says we've only spent 28% of our budget. But yet, you know, we're at the close of December. So we're 50% through the year. So why is that such a discrepancy? It's because with school finance, our teachers, we escrow paychecks so that they are paid all through the summer. So we have not yet reached the 50% payout mark for salaries yet. Because at the close of June, they receive 3 additional paychecks. So we're escrowing those funds to prepare us for June. Does that help? Okay. So any questions on the financial report?
We actually need a motion on the financial report.
I move that we accept the financial report as submitted.
Second.
Okay. Any more questions or anything for Joy? All right. So we have a motion and a second on the financial report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next is payment of invoices. Are you ready for that? Okay. So we need a motion on that too. On the payment of invoices, number 7.
Make a motion that we approve the payment of invoices totaling $521,886.71 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Joy?
I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of you on that prior report.
Oh, that's all right.
Just a little bit of review on the timeline of how invoices are paid and when they come to you on the board packet, because this time the dollar value is a little higher than typical. And it's because our board meeting is later. So you all will sequentially see every check that's written. And we, in your packet, it begins with the very first check that was written after the last official board meeting. So this time our board meeting was a week or 2 later, so there are some expenditures in this packet that occurred twice in this time frame, regular monthly expenditures. So the bill packet is a little bit larger. We also had 2 payments out to Melson Roofing Company for Bate Middle School that totaled $137,000. And so we still have about $41,000 balance on that project to pay. And then just a couple of other explanations. You will see lengthy list of invoices to Chase credit card. A lot of our vendors want payment at the time the purchase is made, whether it's hotel or sometimes some of our supplies and materials suppliers do not take purchase orders. So we have to purchase them by credit card. You may see lengthy lists to Walmart, where we used to not have a long list. It was a short list, but Walmart is now on bid. So that's good for our community and good for our staff to be able to go out there and make purchases. And also Amazon has become quite a popular place to make purchases with savings over some of our direct bid vendors. So those are some of our heavily used suppliers. But I didn't have any other invoices that really stood out to me that I thought needed an explanation, but I'm used to seeing them. So you all may have some questions on some of them.
Any questions? So we have a motion and a second on payment of invoices. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Item 8 is the draft budget. Is there a motion?
I move we accept the draft budget as been presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, then a motion and a second. Joy, you want to tell us of that story?
I'll just hit a few highlights for us since we reviewed it in fair detail at the work session. The draft budget is the first in a series of 3 opportunities to create the budget for the following school year. So this is a time whenever we review our revenues, see where we stand compared to last year. It's a time to take a look at our property taxes and our SEEK dollars. Those are our biggest portions of revenue. We look at trends on our average daily attendance because that affects our SEEK calculation. We look at the dollar value that has been appropriated by General Assembly to know how our SEEK dollars will be coming to us next year. We are anticipating an increase, and if that holds, if the funding is complete next year, we will have an increase of, let's see, we anticipate an increase of $137,000 on our SEEK base next year. So that is dependent upon several factors, if the state budgeted enough, excuse me, and if General Assembly can fully fund that. The other piece we take a look at is our property tax, and if we base, I have currently based the budget on 4% revenue increase, and that would generate for us $281,000. So if we look at that compared to the items that we are mandated to fund next year, we have our step increase for our staff, which cost us around $95,000. We have a 2% salary increase, which has been mandated by General Assembly in last year's session, and that will cost us approximately $204,000. Our teacher retirement mandate next year is the last year projected for it to increase for districts, and we're to contribute 3%. We started out several years ago at 0% contribution, and over time have increased to 3%. So that's an unfunded mandate, and it will cost us about $90,000. And then to stay on cycle with our bus replacement, one bus next year will be $112,000. So we need to increase about $501,000 next year. And based on our property taxes and our SEEK increase, we would have new revenues of about $418,000. So to cover the difference, we would tap into some of our carry forward that we have and into our contingency. So general fund would still be healthy. We're still looking at an 8% contingency, which is a good place for us to be. So our total budget, including all funds next year, is projected to be at $21.4 million.
Any questions?
Do you have anything else you want me to hit? I was looking to see if there are any other highlights, but I think that kind of covers it.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept the draft budget as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion's approved. Next item on the agenda is the SBDM allocation formula. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the 2015-2016 SBDM staffing allocation formula as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. You want to describe that as well?
I can.
All right, you're on roll.
All right. The proposed staffing allocation staffs the high school and the middle school at the state minimum of 31-1 for high school, and 6th grade is 29-1, and 7th and 8th grade is 31-1. However, 2 years ago, we were able to put in a lower cap size, and we have been able to maintain that staffing allocation for the past 2 years. So our formula would still read at the state cap with a Section 7 additional allocation to meet, let's see, at the high school, it would be at 28.5 instead of 31, and at the middle school, it would staff at 28.5. So we would allocate those additional positions in Section 7. At the elementary, we are staffing at the state cap. Primary is 24-1, and 5th grade is 28-1. And we follow that formula, but round up to provide full classroom teachers to each grade level. So all of the schools get some additional besides just that base cap, so we don't have to have split class sizes. And then we made a few adjustments to the classified staffing allocation. We didn't make any reductions anywhere. We just recategorized some of our titles for our classified service. So any other questions?
We have a motion and a second to approve the 2015-16 staffing allocation formula. Any questions? All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the needs assessment. We have a recommended motion here, but we have different handouts. Do we need to specify what the motion, or just as listed, I guess?
I can clarify.
Okay. Yeah,
Joe can explain too. There are a couple ways of approaching the work. We've identified a series of needs. Current funds do not allow us to meet all of those needs. So the first handout shows a series of different packages as ways of trying to pick and choose the things that we feel may meet the priorities based upon the surveys that we've done from faculty, staff, and board. The other package is a strategy that says, let's meet all of the needs, and here's what's would be involved. That package requires some financial maneuvering and some long-term planning to make that work. And Joy will explain those pieces of it now.
Certainly. So we currently have available cash in building fund and capital outlay. By the time, we had been looking at that number, $360,000, but I've recently received our final SEEK allocation. And with our average daily attendance numbers factored in, we actually have $380,624 that we can apply to cash projects. So in part of the motion tonight, if you approve this, it would be to approve the capital funds request form to use building fund and capital outlay funds to use it again, to fund the needs before you. And then the balance of the funding would come from, in looking at next year's budget, either a balance of capital outlay and building funds next year, depending upon our bond sale and how much cash would be available in those sources of funds. If our bond sale is early enough, if we don't have cash available in building fund and capital outlay fund, we would know that by June, and we could set aside funds from our carry forward balance in June to meet the rest of the needs on the list.
Does it make sense now for the motion just to cover this $360,000, knowing that we have a plan that goes beyond that we can come back to, but to just obligate that amount? Does that make sense for now?
You can. And then in June, we can address the balance, and we just know that that's on the table.
And can you repeat what you said about what the motion needs to state?
Sure. To approve the capital funds request for $380,624 to be the source of funding for the maintenance and capital outlay needs.
Okay.
For the maintenance and capital outlay needs. And you said the figure?
$380,624.
All right. And just so everybody's looking at the same thing here, there's a handout called Assessment Priorities All. Is that right? That's the one that covers the long-term, or not the long-term, the 2-year plus plan to cover everything that's on the list. So is everybody referring to that document and sees what we're talking about? Okay. All right. So that is the approach, and so now we'll take the motion.
Can I ask one question first? I'm sorry.
That's fine.
And Ed's here too. On the pickup truck, is that something that's absolutely we got to do now? Can it wait another year?
I don't know. I mean, could it wait another year?
Mm-hmm.
I think we have several things on that list. If we wanted to push them to another year, we could probably state that could be done.
The only reason I'm asking is on exchange of dollars. I look at the secure parking issue that we have as being a real priority, and if we wait another year, it could be bad news. So that's one thing I'm looking at is that $20,000 expenditure, if it's possible. This is just my opinion, that if we could wait another year for the truck, or we'll know more in June or whenever, but that's all I'm looking at.
If these estimates, which are rough estimates, come back exactly as they're listed, which they won't, or less, as Joyce stated already, that she's already accumulated $380,000 where this was budgeted for $360,000.
Okay.
So it could very well be that both things get done.
Both can be done.
Because it's within that amount of money. And I think that essentially what the board is approving is our ability to try and meet these as best we can with the dollars that are available over the next 2 years. And the part of the fact that we're going to do all of it, which I think is a great move by the board, to try and get caught up on a series of needs.
Okay.
And we have enough maintenance trucks for our needs at the current time. One of those trucks is extremely old. And so we've had that pickup truck that's been on our summer maintenance list for the last, last 10 years probably.
It's a
It's a 70, we're talking about a 75.
That's a classic truck.
It's a classic.
Why would you want to get rid of that?
So, but it'll probably keep on chugging.
Okay. I think it's all going to work out regardless, but it just was something I thought could easily be swapped.
And based on our funding sources, it's very likely we'll have the list completed by November. So,
Okay. So we need a motion still
Okay.
on the needs assessment.
Bear with me, my handwriting was slow. I make a motion that we approve the capital funds request for $380,624 as a source for the maintenance and capital outlay projects.
All right, a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any more questions on this? All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next is the LG&E KU energy proposed rate increase.
Sure.
Okay.
This was a conversation in the work session. We talked about that there is a proposed rate increase by LG&E Utilities. KSBA, Energy Management, has rallied folks to share the costs of an attorney to help contest the degree of the rate increase. The cost is equitably distributed amongst the participating districts. Our portion is roughly $450. The KSBA is asking for an official resolution by the board to state that, in fact, that we are in support of making that payment and the contesting of the rate increase. I have a copy of the resolution, which I'm happy to read, which ultimately would be a motion to accept the resolution.
So is this the same thing we talked about at the work session?
Exactly.
Okay, so everyone, if anyone, okay, all right. Was there a motion?
All right, I make a motion that we authorize the superintendent to provide funding support to the Kentucky School Board Association up to $450 to represent interest of the board before the PSC in case numbers 2014-00371 and 2014-00372.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions on this? All right, all in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the staffing update.
Make a motion that we approve the staffing update as submitted.
Is there a second? Second. All right, motion and a second. Are there any questions, or this is, as I remember from looking at the handout, it's a one position, is it just one position at the Child Development Center? Are there any questions on that? All right, all in favor of the motion, state say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now we are going to go to the two items that the agenda was amended to add. The first being a math consultant position, and Dr. Look has some information on that. The next two items, I think, are just going to be information items, so we don't need a motion, or we won't be voting, just to understand what's going on.
In our pursuit of supporting math instruction in the district, I am looking for some services to get us rolling in how we think about math instruction, particularly in grades 6 through 12. As those conversations unfold, I think it's important that we get started to initiate kinds of conversations among math teachers, both within school, within grade, and across school, to align services, curricula, and the level of rigor. Leslie Texas Consulting has become available to us, which is a pretty rare thing. If you want to see who she is, I do actually have a copy of her resume. And I think that her experience, philosophy, and general knowledge fits the Danville schools quite well. What she and I have worked to do is create a 5-day professional development series that would primarily focus on our middle grades math teachers, and special ed would likely expand depending upon how we arrange the time and resources, to possibly include algebra, maybe geometry teachers at the high school, and possibly our science teachers to sit in and hear about the philosophy and the methods of instruction. This is a way of not only teaching students, in essence, how to do algebra, but the actual tools of algebraic thinking, which transcends, goes across lots of different disciplines and experiences. The proposal, which I've got a copy of as well, which is a rough, I asked her to do a rough sketch, is one that I was able with her to look at, as she has done it in other schools, schools very similar to Bate in disposition and makeup, that is already showing impact. And so this is a way for us to begin our work with math development for the district.
This had kind of come up as an issue that we talked about as kind of a part of the year position type thing. Dr. Wilkes' most recent request is basically to just offer some additional professional development. That's something that the central office arranges and does on a routine basis, and it's not really usually something the board votes on to approve or anything like that. So this is just kind of for our information and just to keep us abreast of what's happening. So that's that item. The next item that's on the agenda references the scheduling for the schools related to the All-A state tournament coming up this week.
We have a wonderful opportunity to support our girls in their pursuit of the All-A tournament. Unfortunately, their first game, and if they win when they win their second game, will both occur during the school day, which always poses a great challenge as we try to philosophize the importance of building climate and culture among students, supporting our athletics, and the instructional time that's involved. Quite honestly, there isn't a great win out of any decision that is made, and I welcome your help in directing the right method to be made. In a conversation which has been going on now for over about 10 days, as we first learned that this was likely going to be the case, we put many heads together to try and sort through our best options. We'd like to propose that we approach the work as trying to do both and as opposed to either or. In essence, we would be creating, adjusting Wednesday the 28th as a half day, essentially allowing our students to attend the basketball game, as well as allowing our schedule to work for family, community, and staff to also be able to support the teams in the same. I'm going to leave it open for questions as to how much detail we want to get into as to how these things would work.
Just for the high school.
Just for the high school.
Yeah, I think for the sake of the board, the reason it got brought up from me, well, there's two. One being that I think the athletic portion of our system is so important. And it is a difficult decision to try to decide whether or not we have kids not in session on an educational basis, or do we allow our students and teachers to support our girls' basketball team along with our boys. I view both of them as educational opportunities, also community building, and I thought that it was important enough that we should discuss it. The other reason this got brought up was that I had an interesting phone call from my son last night who said, "Dad, are the Danville schools not off to go see the girls play basketball?" And I said, "Well, not as of yet." And he said, "You can ask any student or any coach or any teacher what has always been the tradition that the Danville schools have allowed for our sports program." And he said, "You know what? I've gotten so used to watching women's basketball now." he said, you know, it's a great thing, and this is a good thing for our ladies, our lady ads. And he said, I really hope that as an alum who valued sports and education that we allow this to happen. And I said, okay, so that's when I sent the email. So that's where all this came about.
I know that we had almost exactly the same issue, what, a couple years ago, recently. What did we do then?
The
Just
trick-
to remind me.
The trick last year was that the first round game was not during the school day. So when the girls advanced to the second round, the school was canceled for the high school, correct? Okay. When the girls made the Sweet 16, which is extremely rare for any single A school, that's beyond remarkable. And the entire district canceled school to allow everyone to celebrate a once-in-a-100-year opportunity.
And what you're talking about now, the half day, I can't remember from the email that came today, all the different
Right.
permutations. So just, if you can tell me for the half day, what we're talking about as far as when school starts, when it dismisses, how it's a half day,
Sure.
and what are the rules under which people can check out or do whatever they want to do.
School would run from 8:15 to 11:15. Those students attending the field trip to Touchstone All-A tournament would leave on that buses earlier, roughly between 10 and 10:15. Any student that, well, that's been best way to describe it.
Was this a tournament we were invited to, or is this something we earned our way into this stage? Or is this an invitation to all 1 and 2A schools?
There's 120 A schools that sign up to participate in the All-A tournament. Then you win your way into the tournament. So 120 are eligible. I think it's 120 of 126. I could be wrong, but I think it's right. And then out of that, they played their way into eligibility. Their victories over Somerset Friday night clinched their position in the tournament. The total number, how many teams are in the All-A? 16?
16.
Yeah, so out of 120 schools, 16 will ultimately qualify.
And what will this cost us to go, to have the buses? Because I saw on one of the many options that it said to not charge the kids because,
Cost of the bus is probably roughly $200 a bus. We assume we would need no more than 3 buses. But we will be able to tell by ticket sales tomorrow much more specifically what that would be.
at a cost for the district, we're just talking $600.
Plus it's the time for the drivers. Trying to think of other costs that would be associated because we'll be. So yes,